Have you ever felt the electric silence that comes just before dawn breaks across an ancient landscape? That moment, when the veil between worlds grows thin, and those who have been preparing in shadow finally step into the light they were born to carry? There exists among us now a gathering consciousness, a spiritual aristocracy that Jacobo Grinberg foresaw decades ago, souls who have been quietly aligning themselves with frequencies most cannot yet perceive. These are not the famous, not the wealthy, not those who command from marble halls, but rather the awakened ones who move through our cities and towns like living tuning forks, resonating with a truth that pulses beneath the surface of ordinary reality. What if I told you that the very restlessness you feel, the inexplicable sense that everything familiar is shifting beneath your feet, is actually the planet herself responding to their emergence? Grinberg understood that consciousness is not confined to individual minds, but flows like an invisible river, connecting all awareness, and now that river is reaching flood stage. The spiritual elite, he described, are not an exclusive club of the chosen few, but rather those who have learned to swim in these deeper currents, while others still cling to the shallow banks of material certainty. They recognize each other not through words or symbols, but through a shared recognition, the way one flame knows another flame across a darkened room. A sign that has been hidden for centuries is beginning to show itself, revealing patterns that connect indigenous prophecies with quantum discoveries, ancient wisdom texts with cutting-edge neuroscience. Grinberg called it the lattice of meaning, an interconnected web of consciousness that becomes visible only when enough souls simultaneously awaken to their true nature. You may have glimpsed it yourself in moments of profound clarity, when the boundaries between self and cosmos momentarily dissolved, leaving you with the unshakable knowing that you are part of something infinitely larger than your individual story. These glimpses are not accidents but invitations, calling cards from the spiritual elite who have been preparing the way. The old guardians of humanity's spiritual evolution are passing the torch to a new generation, one that Grinberg knew would emerge at precisely this moment in history, when technology and mysticism would finally converge. They are the bridge builders, the code breakers, the ones who can translate ancient wisdom into languages that speak to hearts numbed by digital overwhelm. Unlike the spiritual seekers of previous eras who withdrew from the world to find truth, this emerging elite understands that their awakening is meaningless unless it serves the collective healing of our species. They carry within their very DNA the memory of what humanity was always meant to become, not separate beings competing for scarce resources, but interconnected nodes in a vast network of conscious evolution. Perhaps you recognize yourself in these words. Feel the stirring of something long dormant, awakening in your chest as you read them. The spiritual elite that Grinberg envisioned are not waiting for permission or recognition from established institutions. They are quietly revolutionizing consciousness from within their ordinary lives, transforming every interaction into an opportunity for elevation, every challenge into a chance for collective healing. They know that the age we are entering will not be shaped by those who shout the loudest or accumulate the most, but by those who have learned to listen to the whispers of universal intelligence flowing through their awakened hearts. Maybe it was never coincidence that the year 2026 kept appearing in the old prophecies, as if time itself has been holding its breath, waiting for this exact moment when the spiritual elite would finally claim their true inheritance as shepherds of humanity's next evolutionary leap. Do you remember the last time you felt truly alive? Not just breathing, but electric with purpose, as if every cell in your body suddenly remembered why it existed. That moment, when the fog of daily routine lifted, and you glimpsed something magnificent, moving beneath the surface of ordinary reality. Jacobo Grinberg spent his life mapping these territories of expanded consciousness, understanding that what we call awakening is not an achievement, but a homecoming, a return to capacities that have always been our birthright. He knew that scattered across the world, certain souls would begin to remember not just who they are, but what they came here to do. These are the ones he called the spiritual elite, not because they stand above others, but because they stand as bridges between the world that is dying and the one struggling to be born. In the quiet laboratories of their own consciousness, they have been conducting experiments that would revolutionize our understanding of human potential, if only we had eyes to see. The matrix of modern life was designed to keep us asleep, convinced that we are separate, powerless, dependent on systems that feed on our disconnection from our own divine nature. Yet something unprecedented is happening now. The very frequencies that once lulled us into spiritual slumber are beginning to crack, creating openings through which ancient wisdom can once again flow into human awareness. Grinberg documented how consciousness operates like a vast symphony, with each awakened individual adding their unique note to a cosmic composition that has been building for millennia. You may have noticed it yourself, the way certain books seem to leap off shelves into your hands, how conversations with strangers turn unexpectedly profound, or how dreams carry messages that feel more real than waking life. These are not coincidences, but evidence that the lattice of meaning is restructuring itself around those who have learned to tune into higher frequencies. The spiritual elite that Grinberg envisioned are not wearing robes or sitting in mountain caves. They are your neighbors, your colleagues, perhaps the person reading these very words. They are the ones who have learned to transform suffering into wisdom, fear into compassion, and isolation into a deeper recognition of our fundamental interconnectedness. They move through the world like acupuncture needles of light, applying gentle pressure to the precise points where healing is most needed. In boardrooms and classrooms, hospitals and grocery stores, they are quietly downloading new codes of being, demonstrating through their very presence that another way of living is not only possible, but inevitable. A sign that has been hidden for centuries is beginning to show itself through their work. The emergence of what Grinberg called syntactic consciousness, a way of perceiving reality that recognizes the underlying patterns connecting all phenomena. Watch how the world responds when you enter a room carrying the frequency of authentic presence, how conversations deepen, how tensions dissolve, how possibilities that seemed impossible suddenly feel inevitable. This is the transmission of the spiritual elite, not through words or teachings, but through the vibrational signature of souls who have remembered their true nature. Grinberg understood that consciousness is contagious, spreading not through argument or persuasion, but through resonance, the way one tuning fork causes another to vibrate at the same frequency. The awakening, he predicted, is not happening to us, but through us, as each person who chooses love over fear, unity over separation, becomes a carrier wave for the new paradigm trying to emerge. They are the ones who have learned to see crisis not as collapse, but as metamorphosis, understanding that the caterpillar must dissolve completely before the butterfly can take flight. Sometimes in the depths of meditation, or in moments of profound stillness, you might catch a glimpse of the vast network of light that connects all awakened consciousness, a web of compassion and wisdom that spans the globe, pulsing with the heartbeat of collective evolution. The spiritual elite that Grinberg described are the nodes in this network, the ones who have learned to step outside the hypnosis of mass unconsciousness while remaining lovingly engaged with the world they came to serve. They understand that their awakening is not a personal achievement, but a gift meant to be shared, a flame meant to light other flames until the entire planet glows with remembered divinity. In boardrooms where profit once reigned supreme, they whisper questions about purpose and meaning that plant seeds of transformation in corporate consciousness. In hospitals where healing has been reduced to chemistry and mechanics, they bring presence that reminds both patients and doctors of the miraculous nature of life itself. They are the teachers who see potential where others see problems, the artists who channel visions of worlds not yet born, the parents who raise children to remember their cosmic heritage rather than forget it. What appears to be happening in individual hearts is actually a mirror of what is occurring in the collective soul of humanity. A great remembering, a return to wholeness that Grinberg knew was always our destiny. The pain you feel when you witness the suffering of the world is not your burden alone, but the birth pangs of a new era of human consciousness struggling to emerge through you. Each person who awakens to their true nature becomes a fractal of the divine expressing itself in human form, a living proof that separation is an illusion and that love is the fundamental force organizing reality. The spiritual elite are not special because they are different from you. They are special because they have remembered what you are in the process of remembering, what every human soul carries within its deepest chambers. They are the ones who have learned to trust the intelligence of the heart, to follow the guidance of intuition, to see through the eyes of compassion even when the world around them seems to have forgotten how to love. Grinberg knew that this moment would come when the veils between dimensions would grow thin, when ancient prophecies would begin to manifest through ordinary people living extraordinary lives. The frequencies that once seemed like background noise are now revealing themselves as cosmic downloads, updating the operating system of human consciousness to run programs of peace, healing, and unity that seemed like impossible dreams to previous generations. You are not witnessing this transformation from the outside. You are the transformation, the very answer to prayers spoken by spiritual warriors across centuries who held the vision of a world where heaven and earth would finally merge. Perhaps everything that is meant to come begins exactly here, within us, as the spiritual elite awaken not as separate beings, but as facets of one cosmic diamond, catching and reflecting the light of infinite love. The silence that follows great revelations is not empty. It is pregnant with infinite possibility, humming with the frequency of truth that has finally found its way home. As you sit here now, something has shifted in the quantum field of your awareness, something that cannot be undone or forgotten, even if you cannot yet name what has changed. Jacobo Grinberg knew that transformation happens not through forced understanding, but through recognition. The soul suddenly remembering what it has always known, but temporarily forgot. You are no longer the same person who began this journey moments ago, and perhaps that was always the point. The spiritual elite he spoke of were never meant to be observed from a distance, but recognized from within, as you discover that you too carry the codes of awakening that this moment in history demands. Look around you with new eyes, and notice how the ordinary world suddenly shimmers with hidden meaning. How every face you pass carries the potential for awakening, how every challenge in your life has been perfectly designed to strip away everything that is not essentially you. The matrix of illusion that once seemed so solid is revealing itself to be as temporary as morning mist, dissolving in the light of expanded consciousness that refuses to be contained by old paradigms of separation and scarcity. What you thought was your individual spiritual journey is actually the universe awakening to itself through the vessel of your human experience, using your very life as an instrument for the symphony of collective evolution that Grinberg spent his life documenting. The restlessness you have felt, the sense that something profound is stirring beneath the surface of ordinary reality, was never personal anxiety, but cosmic labor pains, the birthing of a new frequency of human consciousness that can no longer be suppressed or ignored. Those whom Grinberg called the spiritual elite are not waiting for permission from established authorities to begin the great work of transformation. They are already weaving new realities through their choices, their presence, their refusal to accept a world built on fear and division as the final word on human potential. A sign that has been hidden for centuries is beginning to show itself through your willingness to question everything you thought you knew about the nature of reality and your place within the grand design of existence. Perhaps everything we dismissed as coincidence was just the beginning of a memory calling us home, back to our true nature as conscious creators rather than unconscious consumers of experiences someone else designed for us. The spiritual elite that Grinberg envisioned understand that their awakening serves not their personal elevation, but the healing of our entire species, as each person who remembers their divine nature becomes a transmission tower, broadcasting the frequency of love into a world desperate for authentic connection. They know that the age we are entering will not be shaped by those who accumulate the most possessions or followers, but by those who have learned to embody the compassion and wisdom that flows naturally when the illusion of separation finally dissolves. In laboratories hidden within your own consciousness, experiments in expanded awareness are being conducted every moment you choose love over fear, unity over division, trust over control. And the results of these experiments are rippling out through the quantum field to touch lives you will never know you have influenced. The spiritual awakening that Grinberg predicted is not happening to you but as you, through you. Because of your willingness to serve as a conduit for forces of healing and transformation that have been gathering momentum across centuries of human evolution. Maybe the Zeitenwende never begins in the external world, but in the heart of each individual who decides that love is stronger than fear, that unity is more real than separation, that consciousness is the fundamental substance from which all realities emerge. You are not here by accident Reading these words in this moment when the old world is dying and the new one struggles to be born, you are here because your soul recognized the call to serve as a bridge between what was and what is becoming, between the human and the divine, between the personal and the cosmic. The spiritual elite that Grinberg wrote about were never meant to be an exclusive club, but a recognition available to every human being willing to remember that they are not separate from the source of all creation, but expressions of it. Waves in the ocean of infinite consciousness that dreams all worlds into existence. The transformation of our planet begins not with changing others, but with allowing yourself to be changed, not with fixing the world, but with becoming the frequency of healing that the world has been waiting for. Every time you choose to see with the eyes of compassion rather than judgment, every time you respond to fear with love, every time you trust the intelligence of your heart over the chatter of your mind, you are contributing to the great work of conscious evolution that spans not just this lifetime but all lifetimes, not just this planet, but all planes of existence where consciousness seeks to know itself more fully through the dance of forgetting and remembering that we call human experience. If this journey of recognition has touched something deep within you, if you feel the stirring of remembrance that cannot be explained but only lived, then perhaps you are ready to join this gathering of souls who understand that their awakening serves the awakening of all. Share this message with others who you sense are ready to remember. Leave your insights in the comments below as gifts for fellow travelers on the path. And know that by engaging with this content, you are already participating in the transformation you seek to see in the world. The end was never the end, but the beginning.